I was in the conference room, reviewing the final budget for the quarter when my assistant whispered, "Your brother's here, he wants to speak with you." That surprised me. He hadn't stepped foot in this building in years. The same brother who used to steal my lunches and sneer at my job. I nodded calmly, not showing a flicker of surprise. Years had passed and life had changed, but I kept steady, curious about what he was really after this time. Real quick, if you enjoy stories where karma finally clocks in, hit subscribe. We've got a lot of those around here. Let's continue. When my brother walked into the office that day, I kept my expression neutral, but inside the memories stirred, the small frustrations and quiet resentments from childhood. I'm Mari's 36 years old now, director of a mid-sized tech company. It's taken years to build my career, earning respect and responsibility that my brother never bothered to seek for himself. While I was managing teams and projects, he was drifting from job to job, always quick to judge my desk job as something small. But now, here he was, asking for a position at the company I'd helped grow. The irony wasn't lost on me. That afternoon, after politely declining to meet with him immediately, I retreated to my office. My mind was already racing, quietly piecing together everything I knew about him. "I can't believe he's serious," I murmured to my friend and colleague Lana, who sat across from me, sipping her coffee. Lana had been with the company almost as long as I had, and she knew the family history. "He's desperate, Maurice. You always told me how he'd take your lunch back in the day," Lana said with a small smirk. "Maybe he thinks things have changed." "Things have changed," I replied quietly, "but not the way he expects." I started by going through my old emails and messages, anything related to him. For years, I had quietly kept records of our financial support to my parents. Even when my brother scoffed at my job and refused to help, I sent money to support them. It was my way of keeping the family steady, even if my brother never acknowledged it. One thing was clear. He'd never prepared for responsibility. I called my parents that evening. "Have you noticed anything strange lately?" I asked casually. "Oh, Mari's," Mom sighed. "He's been out of work for months, doesn't answer his phone half the time. We don't know how he's managing." That was the first confirmation. While I was running my company, he was falling behind. But there was more beneath the surface, and I needed to understand it. The next day, I met with Jason, my trusted project manager and longtime friend. We grabbed lunch at our usual spot, a quiet cafe a few blocks from the office. "I need your help with something," I said, sliding a photo of my brother across the table. "He's applying here, but I want to know exactly what I'm dealing with." Jason nodded thoughtful. "I know the HR guy, Phil. I'll ask him to check background info discreetly, see if there's anything in his work history that's concerning." And I added, "I want to know if he's asked anyone for favors or tried to use connections to get in." Jason grinned. "Leave it to me, I'll find out what I can without raising alarms." I appreciated Jason's loyalty. He was sharp, reliable, and shared my pragmatic approach. Over the next week, he quietly gathered details. Gaps in my brother's employment, vague explanations for why jobs ended abruptly, rumors about borrowing money and not paying it back. Meanwhile, I watched from a distance. The company was buzzing with the news of a potential new hire, but nobody knew it was my brother. I kept it that way. At home, my evenings were spent in quiet reflection. I dug out old journals I'd kept during our childhood, notes about the constant battles over small things, like who got the last slice of cake or the bigger helping at dinner. It was childish, but it had shaped our relationship. One entry stuck with me. "He never cared about my dreams, said my job was for losers." But those words didn't define me anymore. I began to prepare. If he wanted in, I would make sure he earned it on my terms. I drafted a list of projects and challenges he would need to tackle, something that would test his commitment and skill, qualities I doubted he possessed. I shared my thoughts with Lana during one late night at the office. "I'm not just going to hand him a job," I said, rubbing my temples. "If he thinks I'm going to pity him, he's wrong." Lana nodded. "Good, let him prove he belongs here." We agreed that I would arrange for a trial period, strictly probationary with clear expectations. No special treatment. If he slipped up, that would be the end of it. Meanwhile, I reconnected with our parents again. "Don't let him lean on you," I advised gently. "You've done enough." Mom sighed. "It's hard to watch him struggle, but I understand." Her words reminded me how much I'd carried over the years, not just financially, but emotionally. One morning, my brother showed up unannounced at my office. I was sitting at my desk when the door creaked open. "Hey, Maurice," he said, avoiding eye contact. I didn't stand up. I'm busy, I said flatly. I just wanted to talk, maybe work something out. I studied him quietly. His clothes were worn, his eyes tired, but there was a glimmer of hope or maybe desperation. I'm not your charity case, I replied. If you want a job here, you'll have to earn it. I'm watching. He nodded slowly and left without another word. That day, I documented the visit. Every interaction counted. At work, my network of colleagues began to help in subtle ways. Lana checked in with HR about onboarding procedures. Jason prepared a list of training modules. Even a few junior staff were discreetly briefed to observe performance without bias. The plan was in motion. Most importantly, I stayed calm, confident in my ability to handle whatever came next. It wasn't about punishing him, but about protecting everything I'd worked so hard for. And if he wanted to step into this world, he would have to respect that. As I closed my laptop that evening, I thought quietly to myself, this time I'm in control. The morning my brother officially applied for a position at the company, everything felt eerily calm, at least on the surface. I was already at my desk when Lana poked her head in, her usual spark dampened by hesitation. Maurice, she said softly, he's in the lobby, asked to see you. I looked up steady. I expected as much. Taking a deep breath, I walked down to meet him. The lobby felt colder somehow, the polished floors reflecting his nervous energy. He looked different than I remembered, worn, uncertain. The confident arrogance of childhood was replaced by something fragile. Hi, he said, voice low, thanks for seeing me. I nodded curtly. Let's get one thing clear, this isn't a favor, you're not here because of family ties. You're here to prove you deserve a spot. His jaw tightened. I know, I'm ready. We made our way to a small conference room, away from prying eyes and ears. As I sat, I noticed Jason waiting just outside, a silent ally in this quiet battlefield. You've been unemployed for months, I said gently but firmly. What have you been doing? He swallowed hard, trying to get back on my feet. I know I messed up. That admission was rare from him. I'm not here to rehash the past, I continued, but you need to understand what's expected. He nodded. I pulled out the list of projects I'd prepared, sliding it across the table. These are challenges that require dedication, skill, and accountability, I said. You'll be on probation, any slip-ups and we part ways, no second chances. His eyes scanned the list, the weight of the moment settling in. I won't let you down, he said quietly. I gave a small, measured smile. Good, because this company means a lot to me, I won't risk it. We arranged for his trial period to start the following Monday. That afternoon, back at my office, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Lana stopped by again, offering a sympathetic smile. You handled that well, she said. I had to, I replied. I'm not here to be his safety net. She nodded. Let me know if you need anything. Over the next few days, whispers floated through the office. Some colleagues were skeptical, others quietly curious. Most, like me, kept their opinions to themselves, watching closely. The tension in the air was tangible. One afternoon, during a team meeting, Jason brought up a minor error one of the junior staff made. Let's use this as a learning moment, he said. Mistakes happen, but accountability is key. I glanced at Lana across the room, and she gave me a subtle nod, the silent code we'd agreed on. That evening, I reviewed the reports from HR. My brother had passed the background checks, but the gaps in employment remained glaring. The following Monday arrived fast. I made sure to greet him as he entered the office, keeping my tone neutral. Welcome to your first day of probation, I said. His relief was palpable, but so was the pressure. The day passed with small tasks, introductory meetings, and careful observation. Lana and Jason both reported back with notes, helping me piece together a clearer picture. By midweek, it became obvious he was out of his depth. His responses were slow and his confidence wavered. During a team brainstorming session, he struggled to contribute meaningfully. I stepped in gently. Let's focus on your strengths, I suggested. What's something you're comfortable with? He hesitated. I've managed small projects before. Good, I said, we'll start there. That evening, Lana and I discussed the situation over dinner. He's trying, but this isn't his world, she said thoughtfully. I know, I replied, but I'm giving him every chance. Lana smiled. You're more patient than I would be. The next day brought a surprise. He stayed late, poring over documents and tutorials, determined to catch up. When I noticed, I approached quietly. Impressive, I said. He looked up, surprised. I'm serious, I added. This shows commitment. His eyes met mine with something close to gratitude. It was a small breakthrough. But the real test came that Friday. A critical client presentation needed last-minute preparation, and I assigned him a supporting role. He stumbled through the rehearsal, tripping over data and timing. Afterward, I called him into my office. "This was a tough week," I said. "You're working hard, but we need results." He nodded solemnly. "We'll see how next week goes," I continued. "I understand." As he left, I reflected on the path ahead. This wasn't just about work, it was about proving himself in a way that mattered. Meanwhile, whispers around the office began to shift. Some colleagues who had doubted him started noticing his effort. Others remained skeptical. One morning, Lana pulled me aside. "Word is, he stayed late again last night." I smiled. Good. It wasn't just about giving him a chance, it was about setting boundaries and watching whether he could rise to meet them. I thought back to our childhood, the stolen lunches, the dismissive comments. This was a new chapter. And though the past lingered, the future was mine to shape. At week's end, I called a meeting with Jason and Lana. "Let's review," I said. Together, we analyzed his progress, strengths, and weaknesses. "We give him one more week," I decided. "After that, we reassess." They agreed. As I walked back to my office, I felt the weight of responsibility, not just for the company, but for myself. I was the one steering this ship. And no matter how familiar the crew, the captain must stay vigilant. The following week, I found myself more focused than ever. Managing a growing company already demanded so much from me, but this new situation required a level of vigilance I wasn't accustomed to. It wasn't about proving my brother wrong anymore, it was about protecting the company and myself. Each morning began the same, reviewing reports, setting priorities, and keeping a close eye on every move my brother made within the office. I kept the trust of my team intact, but made it clear to those closest to me that this was a test, not a favor. Jason and Lana became my right hand and left hand. We worked like a well-oiled machine, quietly observing, gathering information, and building a clearer picture of what my brother was truly capable of. One morning, Lana came into my office, laptop in hand and an expression that balanced concern with a spark of determination. "Maurice," she began, "I compiled a summary of his work so far. There are some patterns emerging." I motioned for her to sit, eager for the details. "He's consistent with attendance, which is good," Lana said, "but his output is uneven. Some days he completes tasks competently. Others, he misses deadlines or submits work that needs redoing." "That matches what I've seen," I replied. "How's his interaction with the team?" "Awkward at best," Lana admitted. "He keeps to himself mostly, avoids asking for help, and there's definitely a sense of insecurity." That was no surprise. The brother I remembered had always preferred to fly under the radar rather than face scrutiny. "Any signs of him trying to leverage family ties?" I asked, keeping my tone light but direct. "No," Lana answered firmly. "He knows the rules." That reassured me, but I wasn't about to let my guard down. Jason dropped by shortly after, carrying his own folder of notes and observations. "Here's the background check report," he said, sliding the papers across my desk. Nothing new that we didn't expect: gaps in employment, a few short stints, no solid references beyond family friends. I nodded, flipping through the pages. "We'll keep an eye," Jason added, but so far nothing to disqualify him. "What about finances?" I asked. Jason looked up sharply. "I talked to someone at HR. Apparently he's been requesting advances on his paycheck." My eyebrows lifted. "That's a red flag," I said. Jason shrugged. "Maybe, but it could just be desperation." "I'm monitoring." I leaned back, letting the information settle. At that moment my phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "He stopped by yesterday, asked if he could borrow some money." I sighed quietly. "He's struggling," I said aloud. Lana offered a sympathetic look. "Maybe he's finally realizing things have changed." "Maybe," I said, but inside I was conflicted. I didn't want to be the one to push him away completely, but I wasn't willing to be taken advantage of either. That evening I called my parents. "Don't give him anything," I warned. "He needs to stand on his own." Mom's voice was weary but understanding. "We'll be careful." Over the next few days, I focused on strengthening my own defenses. I revisited financial records, ensuring that my personal accounts and company finances were entirely separate and secure. Years of careful bookkeeping suddenly felt like my strongest armor. At the same time, I began to develop contingency plans. What if things went south? What if he tried to sabotage projects or undermine my leadership? I drafted step-by-step actions, from reassignment of responsibilities to restricting access to sensitive information. I shared these ideas with Jason and Lana during a late-night meeting at the office. We need to be ready for anything, I said, tapping the documents in front of us. Jason nodded. I've already set up monitoring on system access logs. We'll know immediately if anything unusual happens. Lana added, and I'm preparing a feedback system to catch early signs of trouble in team dynamics. We were building a fortress, quietly, methodically. Amid all this, I still kept channels open for honest communication. One afternoon, my brother came by my office unannounced. I want to talk, he said, looking worn but sincere. I motioned for him to sit, keeping my tone even. I'm listening. He took a deep breath. I know I've messed up. I want to make this work. Then you need to be honest, I said. No shortcuts, no excuses. We talked for nearly an hour, about expectations, about responsibility, about the past and the future. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Afterward, I felt a mix of hope and caution. In the following weeks, I stayed alert, constantly reviewing progress. I noticed subtle improvements, better punctuality, more effort in meetings, tentative steps toward teamwork. But old habits died hard. There were moments of frustration and setbacks. One day, Lana brought troubling news. He missed a critical deadline, she reported. It set back the marketing team's schedule. I frowned. We need to address this immediately. I called him into my office. This can't happen again, I said firmly. If you want to be part of this company, you have to take full ownership of your role. He looked remorseful. I understand. It won't happen again. I gave a small nod. Good. Outside of work, I leaned on my close friends for support. Over coffee, I confided in Elise, my oldest friend since college. It's exhausting, I admitted. Trying to balance family, work, and all this. Elise reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're stronger than you realize, she said, and you're doing exactly what you need to. Her words grounded me. I realized that my strength wasn't just in strategy or planning, it was in resilience and self-belief. By the end of the month, I had amassed a detailed record of my brother's efforts, his successes and failures, his attitude and work ethic. I kept it all organized, not as ammunition for a battle, but as a clear guide to making informed decisions. Through it all, I remained calm, measured, and confident. This wasn't a personal vendetta. It was a test of character and capacity, and I was determined to see it through with grace. The company was my responsibility, and I would protect it at all costs. No one, not even family, would be allowed to undermine what I had built. The day of the confrontation arrived sooner than I expected. It was a quiet Thursday morning, and I was reviewing quarterly projections when the knock came at my office door. Jason poked his head in, eyes serious. Maurice, your brother's here. Wants to talk, says it's urgent. I nodded slowly, bracing myself. Send him in. He stepped through the door, a mixture of determination and frustration written across his face. Thanks for seeing me, he began, voice steady but tense. We need to talk. I gestured to the chair opposite my desk. Speak freely. He took a breath, then said something I hadn't anticipated. I'm struggling. This isn't what I thought it would be. I didn't expect it to be this hard. I studied him quietly. Years of disappointment and frustration bubbled beneath his words. I'm giving it my best, he added. But I'm afraid I'm failing. His honesty caught me off guard. This wasn't the cocky brother who'd stolen my lunches or looked down on me. I see that, I replied, voice calm but firm. But effort alone isn't enough. You have to take responsibility. He nodded, swallowing. I know I've made mistakes, but I want a chance to fix them. I leaned forward, eyes locked on his. Then show me. No more excuses. Our conversation was interrupted by Lana's entrance. Maurice, there's a problem with the latest project update. The client's unhappy. I frowned. What happened? Lana explained that deadlines had been missed and errors found in the report. Mistakes my brother was responsible for. I exchanged a look with him. This can't continue, I said. He lowered his gaze. I'm sorry, I'll make it right. I paused, weighing my next words carefully. This is your last chance. Prove you can meet expectations or we end this. He nodded solemnly. The rest of the day was a whirlwind of meetings, emails, and updates. I watched as my brother struggled to keep up but refused to give in. By late afternoon, he approached my office holding a revised report. I stayed late fixing it, he said quietly. I scanned the pages, much improved. Better, I acknowledged. Keep this up. That evening, I met with Jason and Lana in the conference room. We're at a crossroads, I began. He's trying, but it's not enough yet. Jason leaned back, thoughtful. He needs more support, but also clearer boundaries. Lana nodded, maybe a mentor, someone to guide him without coddling. I agreed, set it up. We assigned a senior team member, Sable, to mentor him. Sable was sharp and patient, someone who could push without overwhelming. Over the next week, I observed changes. He sought Sable's advice more often and started asking questions instead of retreating, but old doubts lingered. One morning, I caught wind of a rumor circulating the office, that he'd been overheard complaining about me, saying I was too harsh and unfair. I decided to address it directly. Calling him into my office, I confronted the topic. "I hear you're unhappy," I said calmly. He shifted uncomfortably. "It's true I struggle here, it's a lot." "I won't lie," I replied. "This isn't easy, but if you want to stay, you have to respect the standards." He nodded. "I'm trying." I offered a small smile. "That's all I ask." Then came the turning point. During a critical client presentation, Sable gave him a chance to lead a segment. He stumbled at first but recovered with confidence, answering tough questions and showing knowledge he hadn't before. I watched from the back of the room, quietly impressed. Afterward, Jason and Lana came to me, their faces bright. "He nailed it," Lana said. "He showed real growth," Jason added. That evening my brother came by my office again. "Thank you," he said simply, "for the chance." I looked at him, really looked. "This isn't about family," I reminded him. "It's about earning trust." He smiled, a little hesitant but genuine. "I'm ready." Weeks passed and the tension eased. He was still learning, still making mistakes, but the worst of his doubts seemed to fade. I kept close watch, supporting where needed but never lowering the bar. One day, unexpectedly, he invited me to lunch. We sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, the atmosphere different, less strained. "I want to apologize," he said earnestly, "for everything, the past, the way I treated you, the way I doubted you." I reached across the table, surprised. "Thank you." He looked down, then back up. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight. But I want to change." I nodded. Change takes time, but I see it. That conversation marked a new chapter. The brother who once took everything from me was now trying to build something, no longer just for himself, but for us both. And though I remained cautious, I found a quiet hope growing. Life, I realized, was about more than balance, it was about transformation. The weeks that followed felt like a delicate dance, balancing patience with firm expectations, support with accountability. The plan I had set in motion was unfolding, slowly but surely. My brother was no longer the shadow drifting through the office halls. He had begun to take small, meaningful steps forward. The mentorship with Sable was proving invaluable. She challenged him but also recognized his efforts, encouraging him to push past his doubts. One morning, Lana came by my office, a soft smile on her face. "He stayed late again last night," she said. "Working on the new client proposal, he's finally showing real initiative." I returned the smile, feeling a quiet satisfaction. This was exactly what I wanted, not just compliance but genuine engagement. At the same time, I noticed subtle shifts in the office dynamics. Colleagues who had once viewed him with skepticism were starting to warm, cautiously acknowledging his improvements. It was as if the slow transformation was contagious. Jason sent me a message one afternoon. "Client feedback on last week's presentation is positive. They noticed his involvement and professionalism." I didn't need to ask for more. The evidence was there. Meanwhile, I kept pushing forward with my own projects, growing the company, expanding our reach. The success of my leadership wasn't diminished by the personal challenges, it was strengthened. I found myself more focused, more determined than ever. One afternoon, as I reviewed sales reports, my phone buzzed with a message from my brother. "Can we meet? I want to talk about next steps." I replied immediately, "Of course. Let's sit down after work." That evening, we met in a quiet corner of a nearby cafe, away from the bustle of the office. He looked more confident now, though still tinged with a vulnerability I hadn't seen before. "I've been thinking," he began. "I want to take on more responsibility, maybe lead a small project." I studied him carefully. "That's a big step," I said, "but I believe you're ready." He nodded eagerly. "Good. We'll set clear goals and timelines. You'll have support, but the drive has to come from you." The conversation marked a turning point. For the first time, I saw not just a struggling brother trying to catch up, but a man ready to grow. Back at the office, I communicated the plan to Jason and Lana. "We're giving him a project lead role," I announced. They exchanged looks of surprise but nodded in agreement. "With close monitoring," I added. The project was small but important, a product feature enhancement that required coordination across teams. It was a real test. Over the next month, I watched as he tackled the challenge head-on. There were bumps along the way, missed deadlines, moments of hesitation, but also breakthroughs. Solutions proposed, conflicts resolved, progress made. The team's response was cautiously optimistic. At one point, during a team meeting, a junior developer commented, "I didn't expect him to take charge like this. He's been pretty solid." That simple acknowledgement felt like a victory. I felt a similar sense of accomplishment when I received an email from a key client praising the smooth collaboration and timely delivery. Later that week, I invited my brother to lunch again. "This project went well," I said, "and it's thanks to your effort." He smiled, a mixture of pride and relief. "I'm grateful for the chance. It's not easy, but I'm learning." I reached across the table, resting my hand lightly on his. "Keep it up. The company needs people who are willing to grow, not just coast." He nodded, a flicker of determination in his eyes. Outside of work, my life was changing too. I felt a new sense of balance between career, family, and the complicated relationship with my brother. There were still moments of tension and old wounds, but they were quieter now, softened by progress. One evening, as I closed the office door behind me, Lana caught up. "You're handling this beautifully," she said warmly. "Not just the business, but everything else." I smiled, feeling the truth in her words. "It's been a journey," I admitted. She nodded. "And you're not done yet." No, I wasn't. Because this was more than a story about family or work. It was about resilience, about transformation, about the power of preparation and patience. And as the days turned into weeks, I knew that whatever came next, I was ready. Slowly but surely, the tides were turning. My brother faced the reality of his past choices. His job applications outside our company stalled, his reputation marred by years of instability. Yet here, under my watchful eye, he was carving out a new path, albeit a fragile one. At the same time, my own world blossomed. The company thrived, new contracts signed, teams expanded. Recognition followed, not just for me but for the culture I was building, one that valued growth, accountability, and second chances. Family dinners became less strained. While trust wasn't rebuilt overnight, I noticed moments of genuine connection, small signs that the past grudges were losing their grip. The hardest part? Accepting that some wounds take time to heal and some bridges even longer to rebuild. But for the first time, I believed the future was wide open. Months later, I sat in my office, looking out over the city skyline. The past was no longer a shadow, but a quiet reminder of how far I'd come. My brother and I weren't perfect, but we were growing, separately and together. I was building more than a business now. I was building resilience, wisdom, and the kind of strength that comes from knowing your worth and holding your ground. A message popped up on my phone from a young colleague asking for advice about handling tough family dynamics at work. I smiled and replied, "Stay patient, stay prepared, and always trust your own strength." Life had taught me that sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most unexpected growth, and that the future is always full of possibilities.